Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. But today I want to talk about how we built our floating patio this weekend. See, backyard is like a really important place for me and Samantha. It's like our hideaway from the world, surrounded by a giant fence so we don't have to worry about the outside world. And we can just tuck back here with our family and friends and have a good time. And amongst our friends, the backyard has become an arms race where we're constantly just doing one thing after another, from garden to cornhole to darts to cool little grills, really for way cheaper than we could go out and do anything. Our friends have started doing the same thing too, and Rob has completely redesigned his backyard into one of the most amazing little hideaways. Nothing fancy, not a big fancy place, just like ours, 1944 house. Not very big, but the backyard is what makes it worth it. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about how me and Samantha built our floating deck here in one day for less than 450 bucks, and kind of how I funded it, built it, where I got the supplies, and some of the problems I had building. So here we go. We're gonna talk about building a floating patio from scratch in your backyard to try to make up for that unlevel ground you got that you couldn't use paver stones, or those roots you just couldn't build over the top of. We're gonna talk about that kind of stuff in this video, and where you can find some designs to design your patio, because it's got to be engineered correctly. So here's my thought process on all this. See, me and Samantha had this issue. Our backyard, in the corner, there was a space that we couldn't use. It was too unlevel to put paver stones. It was too many roots to really sink posts, and we wound up not using it. So in our tucked away little backyard of not a lot of space, there was a quarter of it that we just couldn't use. So me and Samantha had to remedy that problem. So we got to looking on Pinterest, and I found the idea of a floating deck. And you might be saying, well, how high off the ground is it? Well, we didn't want it too high to have to do too many steps, but we wanted it high enough to where it could get over the roots and really give us the ability to level it. But there was really no grass growing there anyway, so sodding wasn't gonna help out, and no matter what we did was gonna solve this problem. See, we've paver stoned just about everything else that we couldn't grow grass on. Check this out. I don't know if you can see it. This floor is paver stoned the best we could. Then we did bricks and stones and things that we found on the side of the road and people were giving away. Just kind of solved the problem in a cheap and economical way. So after about an hour or so of Googling and YouTubing and Pinteresting, me and Samantha took off to Lowe's. Well, we knew that we had to have the right building supplies. Now, if you're wondering about the engineering of this deck, you can go to decks.com, you can go to Lowe's. They have a deck builder engine, because the engineering's got to be perfect, not perfect, but right, okay? So, because what you're basically doing is you're building a floor. So you're gonna be running joists, and you gotta know about how wide they can stretch, how far a joist can run, being supported, unsupported. That being said, whether you're gonna do 2x6s, 2x8s, or 2x10s is gonna be how far you're gonna be spanning these joists, and about how many people you plan to have on this thing. See, me and Samantha only really plan on having maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people max on this thing, and I've built a few floors in my day. I've got a little expertise in this, not really, but I've flipped a few houses if you've been watching this channel. The size of this is really determining whether you need a permit or you need to check your municipal codes, whatever, before you build this, so don't blame Jack Mo here. But I know about what I need to do, how far I can span these, what I can build it out of. After, looking at the resources online, I know I'm gonna be building this thing out of 2x6s. I'm gonna have 24 inches or so in between my spans and my joists. And then I'm gonna sister it just like a floor with 2x6s running laterally to make sure the joists don't squeak and turn and support each one as they go. Also, to add on that is I don't want the deck too high. So if I did 2x8s, after I put in the patio footing pillars, which I'll put right here, and I'll be showing in this video. After I put those down, my patio would be too high, and I didn't want it that high, but I didn't want it too low to where if grass did grow underneath it, it'd be sticking up through my planks. So after going down to Lowe's, Craig met me down there. We loaded 2 trucks up. I bought 2x6s, decking wood. After I loaded up with decking board, got me some decking screws, two different sizes. I got the 3-inch, and I think it's 1 5/8. You're gonna have to decide on how big your screws are, on what kind of wood you're using. That's gonna be a decision you're gonna have to make, but I know for me, that's what I was gonna use, and we rock and rolled with it. See, my deck wasn't gonna be that big. It's just gonna fit in the corner, and it's going to basically take up that space there. So if you're saying, Jack, hey, I can't afford a deck like that. On a budget. Well, I was too. So let me tell you how I got the money to build it. I went on Facebook Marketplace and I sold an old refrigerator, a rototiller grass edger that didn't run. I sold a bicycle that was sitting around doing nothing and tires were going flat on. Since this, thing has happened, bicycles are in a big demand. So sold that, few other things, raised up about $500 or $600. Wada bing, bada boom. Patio money was rocking and rolling over some stuff that was just sitting in the corner wasting away that I wasn't ever going to use. Oh, and I sold a trailer too that was sitting over there doing nothing and the tires were going bad on for a few $100. And I had more than enough money to complete this project. So my next step was to space out my patio pillars. I'm calling them patio pillars. I'll put the real description right here just in case I'm off on this. I'm calling them patio pillars. They're just basically concrete block that have been molded where you can put 2x4s, 2x6s, 4x4s in them, and they make a good base of support. But leveling these bad boys was the hardest part, being that my spot was unlevel. I mean, it wasn't just like from here to here unlevel. It was here to here to here to here to here to here, all unlevel. So I had to run my 2x6s, put levels on top of it, and just basically go north, south, east, west until all of them are level. Now, you might want to add a little slope to it just for water runoff, from your roof or just from rain. So it's not going to puddle, but you might want to think about that. I didn't do it because I didn't really think it was going to be that big of a deal. But if you want to put a 1/2-inch slope in it or a 1-inch slope in it, that's all for you to do, and it's up to you. You want to make sure this bad boy's square. You don't want it to be kinked and catty-cornered. But by the time you put your lumber in there, do your math, your high school geometry to make sure it's square and everything fits together right. Use your decking screws to put it together, and if you want to use hurricane tie-down straps and stuff like that, go for it. If you're in a really hurricane-prone place, you might want to put a hurricane ground strap, one that you put in the ground and attach it to this thing just so it doesn't go off it goes, when the hurricane season comes, because here in Florida we got that problem. And if you live in a tornado area, you might want to think about that too. But really, the only things you're going to need for this project is really a skill saw, a drill, screws, a level, a string to make sure everything's straight on center, and your wood. So there's really not a lot of things you got to have for this. Oh, maybe a person helping you with. Samantha helped me with it. She kind of oversaw it. Basically, she told me I didn't know what I was doing the whole time, and then we argued back and forth, but we got it built, everybody. So when you figure out your spacing, remember that you can only span wood so far. A floor joist or a joist or whatever you want to call your lateral north-south 2x6s, 2x8s, they can't be too far apart, or when you run your decking, the decking is going to be soggy because you can't run that decking wood too far apart. 24 inches is too far, 12 inches is probably right. So when you're running your north-south 2x6s, or east-west, whichever way you're running them, you got to make sure they're not too far apart or you get a squishy deck. And you don't want a squishy deck because when you walk on it, it's going to go and do that kind of stuff. So I started this thing at about 10 in the morning. That included going to Lowe's. I went to Lowe's at about 10 a.m., got to hustling, came back, got everything leveled, and I was done with this thing by about 4 o'clock. I was completely wore out, but what took me the longest was leveling. So if your place is pretty level, you're probably going to complete this in a couple of hours, 3 hours, depending on how many helpers you got and how fast you can skill saw. See, mine was, I picked the lumber that was, long enough for my deck. They come in 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot. So I picked the lumber length that I would have as least amount of cuts as possible, picked the decking wood that was the length that I wanted, and it made everything a lot more simple. So lastly, I plan on adding steps to this in due time. But I plan on doing, maybe 1 step high, whatever the math is, to the level of the patio. And we're pretty pumped that this is going to add another space for us to hang out, drink coffee, and kind of use the yard. And you know, we're just average people that don't have a real big house, so our backyard is where we spend most of our time. We hardly ever go inside but when we have people over, because one, it keeps the house a lot cleaner, and two, you really can't break anything in the backyard, and you can have as many people over as you want. So I hope you enjoyed this idea of the patio. I really just wanted to document my process of building this thing and share it with you guys, that maybe y'all are out there thinking about a patio too. It was really simple to build, it wasn't that expensive, and I'm glad I did. I gained the experience of building one. Now to learn how to build stairs on a patio, which really, as long as I run my stringers and I use the right wood, it shouldn't take that long. I'll link down below some of the resources of, you know, building that patio, and hopefully it helps. So on to the next adventure, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts, maybe adaptations to this thing, or just whatever. See you guys later.